And we're back on a special holiday edition of Out and About today, looking back at the year that was 2018. Marissa, let's talk about a local story from your perspective.
Well, one thing I thought was very exciting was when the Tennessee Department of Health agreed to create a transgender task force within their HIV/STD program. You know, obviously HIV/AIDS is still a plague in our community, and we appreciated that the Tennessee Department of Health was willing to work with the trans community across the state, not just Nashville, and put together a task force, and we're working to try to come up with ideas and programs to address this issue, to put an end to this epidemic, because we can't ignore any constituency, any community, and we hope that that will certainly continue under the Lee administration.
Right, yeah, what is your thought on that?
I guess, well, right now we're looking to see who the new Commissioner of Health is. The outgoing Commissioner of Health was totally supportive of the plan, and so we hope that whoever is brought in by Governor-elect Lee will continue that support and recognize that this is a health care issue and that we need to make sure that we address this in all constituencies.
So how soon in the new administration will that appointment be made, and then how soon will you know?
Well, obviously the Governor-elect is now making his appointments here in late November, early December. They take office January, I think 20th or 19th, something like that. And so that's when officially the new administration will begin. Okay.
So that's an important one. Brent, can you try to follow that again?
You always got to go after Marissa. Well, selfishly, I picked one that I did, but not because of that. But I wanted to point out Jason Brazel's story, the lift assault, because it had a lot of implications, again, outside of just the event itself.
Right.
Just the way in which he was treated, I mean, the full-on assault, you know, in what you would consider a safe space, essentially a taxi. But the good news is I've kept up with him. I continue to see him. He's doing okay. He's sort of surviving the situation. He's been through all of the surgeries. He looks great. He's doing okay. You know, appearance-wise, but of course there's still a lot of stuff inside that he's dealing with. But something that not only affected him, but I'm curious to see how the case turns out, you know, with the lawsuit and whatnot with Lyft, and then maybe what they might do in the future and other rideshare apps might do to sort of help prevent this, or maybe provide better screening for their drivers, and just some sort of initiative has to come out of this.
Right. And if you missed that segment, you can find it on the World Wide Web.
You can.
That's right.
Right on outandabouttoday.com.
Thank you. So now we move to a personal story, and I know there are plenty, but I would like you guys to highlight one that 2018 just it makes you think of it. We'll start with Chuck.
Okay, so my personal was really the church story with the Methodist Church.
Oh yeah, that's right. You changed it up.
I swapped it because I had a clip. So this is 2018 saw record growth in LGBTQ roles on television. And what's interesting about that is while they were up on media, when they say media, television, Netflix, streaming services, things like that, that's great. In film, they're actually down, which is a little disappointing, though we did have some really great films like Love Sign.
Who goes to the movies anymore? Anyway, I got my Netflix.
You had Call Me By Your Name, which was up for Oscars this past year. Miseducation of Cameron Prost. Bohemian Rhapsody did big box office, even though they said they didn't really explore, though, as much of his sexuality as that they were hoping. But The Favorite, which has a lot of kind of queer character representation, big Oscar buzz. But one of the shows that really broke ground this year was Pose. And my gosh, 5 transgender characters on it, which was phenomenal. So take a look at it and we can talk a little bit about it on the flip side.
What exactly is a ball?
Balls are a gathering of people who are not welcome to gather anywhere else.
Darling, the champagne is burnt.
This is what it's like to be a person at the top of the rainbow room.
What's better, the dream or the reality?
The reality.
What do you want out of life?
I want to be treated like any other woman. That's my dream.
Twirl. Baby, you are our secret weapon.
I wanted to watch more.
I'm going to need to binge watch that during my holiday break.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It was just, and you know, it's so well done, and it really explores and gets into it. For a lot of people, if they're not familiar, like when Madonna did Vogue, that was based on the club scene at the time, and that's what a lot of this is about.
Right. Oh, so it's set back in?
Yes, in the 80s. Yeah.
Paris is Burning. Did you see that documentary?
Yes.
Very much
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Now, like
and you all watch it, right?
Yeah, I saw
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
I'm addicted to the show.
A couple times.
Yep.
Okay, so Marissa, we're on your local story.
Well, actually, that was my local story. So Chuck and I think alike, obviously. Yes, I loved Pose. Also, I'll throw in the movie A Fantastic Woman from Chile, which won an Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film. But Pose in particular, being in part written and directed by trans people, telling our stories, but the whole LGBT community. And I came out through the DC club scene starting in the late 80s, early 90s. So it takes me back on a personal level, and I recognize sort of elements of the characters, and sort of reminds me of some moments in my own life.
Sounds like another segment.
Well, not anything personal for me, but I do find myself every now and then screaming, "Get away from that married man!" So that's not my life. But I love the show. I'm addicted to it, and I can't wait for season 2 to begin.
Okay, great. So Brent, we've got your personal story or two, if you could look
Sure.
back.
Well, I lumped kind of 3 together, and I'll do them quickly because they all have sort of a common theme, but I loved that during the election, so LGBTQ candidates had a 57% success rate on election day, thanks in large part to the Victory Fund and a lot of other things, but that's a huge win for all of us, so that was a positive, uplifting story. And then the march for the women's march here in Nashville, I thought was amazing. The number of people that came out, the 1-year anniversary was a big deal. And then the gay valedictorian kid that came out, you hardly saw this, and then he was on Ellen and essentially had his education paid for. And all 3 of these were sort of big things that made me feel better, like there was hope in 2018. You know, like on many different levels. We had politics for 2 of them, and then 1 just people rallying around. I mean, the kid was the valedictorian of his class, and his parents, you know, threw him out. Like that's just to see the nation kind of embrace him was heartwarming in a way. So that's mine.
Yeah, it makes sense. Listen, there's a lot of hopeful stories, and so now I'm going to put you on the spot. I know nobody makes a New Year's resolution. Nobody does that. But if you had to, you're looking at 2019, we have a minute left. Something that you might focus on this year, and we'll start... we'll go down the line again. We only have a minute left.
Okay, so I'll just say patience, because that's I feel like I need a lot of patience. I react sometimes. Of course not. No, but just with politics in general, sometimes I'm a reactionary, and I've got to kind of be a little more patient and hopeful.
Yeah.
Marissa. Oh, geez. I'm so bad with resolutions. I always seem to break mine within the first couple of weeks. I just want to see more people get engaged in their communities, running for office or serving in appointed positions, making themselves available and helping change the world in the process.
Okay, Brent, you get spared because we're out of time.
Less Twitter. No more Twitter.
Thank you all for the conversation. And you don't go away. After a short break, Chuck talks with author Greg Howard about his new book, The Whispers.